Going live, and we're live. Hello. Hello to anybody out there in YouTube land who's just joining us here. If anybody's out there, would you give me a wee shout just to make sure that you can hear me okay? I think it's a bit of a quiet night tonight. Goodness, how many have we done of these now? 19, I think, in a row. 18 or 9. No, maybe, but it's not that many. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. Tonight's episode looks at Lord Raglan's book, The Hero, and it's a very big influence on Frank Herbert's Dune series. So this is it. Here is my copy. So I can get it out of the light there. There we go. Lord Raglan's The Hero. And I think it's quite an important book, looking at the idea of the hero in Dune, and as I said, how all this stuff's kind of applied to Paul Atreides. So this one here is, I think, published in 1936, I think. And it is quite interesting. I think it makes a very good pairing with Carlyle's Hero and Hero Worship as well. They're interesting books, I think. And I don't know how well, I'm pretty sure Raglan's not very well considered in mythology these days. Or sorry, in mythography and so on, within that sphere of thinking. But I think his work is very much an influence on that kind of what we see in Campbell's work later. And we kind of have a wee sort of look at these different steps within what influences Frank Herbert. And I think really within his scope of the hero, particularly what this kind of more of a classical type of hero. I think these are the kind of books that really do influence him. And as I said, we can see how Paul Atreides goes through 19 of these steps of Raglan's ritualistic steps that the hero must go through. And we talked a wee bit about there in the episode that Oedipus really is the kind of main myth that sets this pattern. I think if he's the only excuse me, Oedipus is the only the only hero who fits all 22 steps of Lord Raglan's ritualistic path that the hero must go through. Hi Brad, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. Thought I was maybe talking to myself a wee bit there. I've had to come to the realization, folks, that I actually do have a cold. I think I've been trying to deny it. And probably the amount of coughing and spluttering I've been doing over the last few days and how nasal I've been sounding. But so I'm on the medication. I'm going full on with the throat meds and the honey and stuff. And I'm going to try and drink more fluids as I talk. So I'll not make this one a particularly long one tonight, folks, just to give my throat a wee bit of a rest. I'm going to attempt to get under the covers and get a lamp sip or two tonight. So if you do have any questions for me in regards to Lord Raglan's The Hero and its influence on Dune, or anything to do with The Hero, Dune, the movie, all things science fiction as usual. I was going to give a wee correction there as well, folks. We were having a wee chat about von Clausewitz the other night, who I know very little about. Hi Karen, nice to see you. But I think I was saying that I thought he was a Napoleon's logistics officer or something like that. My understanding that's complete nonsense. So he's in the Napoleonic era, but he's I believe he's a Prussian officer. So there we go. So, but still worth a look at in terms of what we were chatting about yesterday. So it's always worth to check up on these things. And hi Babs, how's it going? So yeah, I thought it was all on my own. So I'm here for a wee bit, but it's good to see you folks. So as I said, it's not particularly long episode tonight. It just looks at really the influence of Raglan, and it is to do with these ritualistic steps that are very similar to Campbell's concept of the monomyth. Just in terms of, as I said, I actually quite like Lord Raglan's book. As much as it's sort of discredited, I still like reading things like this. But if you see what I mean, his book has kind of got that tripartite kind of structure to myth that is kind of similar to that of the monomyth, etc. And he uses a whole range of different types of heroes to apply to this. So Z was asking me yesterday, I think, about Muhammad and Paul Atreides, and I was telling him I thought it was this book. The study of Muhammad as the hero as prophet, that's Carlyle. So I was getting my two books mixed up there. But it's good to check these wee things and give you a bit of correct feedback, because I'm not a know-it-all, and there's plenty I don't know. So I don't know if you what you thought of the episode. It's in no way an in-depth approach to looking at sort of mythology, but this is all about the mythology that Frank Herbert used, and specifically to how to construct his hero. So I mean, I've got the hero sitting in front of me, for example, the 22 steps, and yeah, it's not an approach that I think is valid at all. And I think you can get that sense from the episode. There's many different ways to approach myth, and there's many different types of source material. But I think I put in me things like, you'll see a pot, I think, and it's actually a pot demonstrating the hero worship of Odysseus in the pot. If you see it in a hero cult. So I'll quickly tell you who he looks at. By the way, Oedipus is the only guy that does 22 of the full steps, and there's a fair bit of Oedipus in Paul Atreides as well. Different set of myths to do with Oedipus, but basically all the different types of heroes that he applies to the mythological and historical. I'll give you an example, and they all have scores, by the way. I don't know if you know this. So we have Oedipus, the only person that scores 22 on Lord Raglan's mythological scale. Paul Atreides, we said, scores 19. So I'll quickly give you who scores what, if you like. It might be interesting. Pardon me. Theseus scores 20. So that's slightly more than Paul Atreides. And Romulus scores 18 points. So these are the highest scores. Then we have Heracles with 17 of Raglan's points. Perseus with 18. Let's see, Jason from the Argonauts, he scores 15. Bellerophon, he scores 16 points. Pelops, who we're talking about in relation to the Atreides, that family line is called the Pelopids. Pelops himself scores 13 points. Asclepios scores 12. Dionysus, 19. Let's see, Apollo, so we've got some gods here. Apollo scores 11 points on Raglan's scale. Zeus himself, what have we got? Scores 15. Bizarre. That we have some biblical figures as well, including Joseph, 12 points. Moses scores 20 points on Raglan's scale. Elijah scores 9 points. It's another prophet, isn't it? And we have Watu Gunning, which is a character I'm not familiar with. I must read this again, actually. Talks about the resemblance. It's a cult hero of the Shilluk tribe, actually. Must look that up. Has a lot of resemblance to Oedipus myth and scores 18 points. Then we have Nikang. Crocodile Princess, one of these Egyptian Sudan, by the looks of it. I think that possibly that other one was a Javan myth. Let's see, scores 14 points, and then we have, I suppose, Siegfried. He scores 11. Oh, we've got one of these Welsh names that I just can't read, and I'll have to check with that. Must give my uncle a ring and find out how to pronounce it rather than getting mutual grief. We've got King Arthur scores 19 points, and finally the last person in Raglan's book, the hero, is Robin Hood, who scores 13 points. So it's a bit of a sort of tease, but it gives you a wee sort of idea of the different types of heroes he's looking at. And they're supposed to be mythological, historical, and biblical, really, if you want to give it that word. So I don't know what you think about this kind of thing. But we sort of kind of show how Paul Atreides very much fits to a lot of these. The only slight differences are his death, I think, because he doesn't. I think it's quite funny, by the way, that Lord Raglan has the pattern is that the hero often dies at the top of a hill. I don't know really what the basis of that idea is from, Paul Atreides is succeeded by his son is kind of a proper twist on the hero. The hero is usually not succeeded by their son, I think. The Arthur Mordred, that kind of thing. So there we go. So it's an interesting little book. I don't know if I particularly, you see these little red hardback books that you used to get, the handy volume classics and stuff like that. I love wee books like this, and they tend to last very well. They're nicely printed, good quality paper and stuff, So, and as I said, I think Raglan's The Hero goes very well with Carlyle's study on the hero. So there we go, folks. I don't know if anybody's got a question on the heroic nature of Dune. Fire away. As I said, I don't think you have a monomyth without Lord Raglan. I think that there's a very obvious connection to it. And we're not going to run too late tonight, folks, because it will go to about 11 latest, I think, just because I'm not feeling the best, but my throat really is getting a good old battering, just to keep it fresh for the next evening. So if anybody's got any questions or comments on the Dune, anything at all, fire away. I stand by ready to answer. Yeah. And again, I don't know what you think about this. I know some of you are from different places in the world. And have you ever maybe considered applying the people that you think are your heroes to Lord Raglan's scale and see how they score? And I suppose it depends on who your heroes are. So Raglan points out if your heroes are real people, they'll not score very high on that scale. But if they're mythological, who knows? I don't know. Has anybody got a particular favorite mythological hero or character out of mythology, etc.? Then give us a wee shout, let us know. But otherwise, far away with any wee questions, folks. Have you? There's Carolyn's back in again. Have you seen the film again yet, Carol? The anticipation's getting mighty, I think. I wonder how Sloan from 2000 AD would score. Brad says it's very similar to my surname, Sloan. Old way of saying Sloan, Slowy. It's interesting. I suppose from the comics, Brad, I don't know, but he's a combination, isn't he? He's a combination of a few different heroes from Irish mythology. I keep forgetting other people still. Do you still read 2000 AD, Brad? I gave it up a while back just for the mere reason it got too expensive for a comic book. But I've been reading that since I was 4 years of age. Just very recently gave all of my 2000 ADs, all of them, just boxes and boxes and boxes. And my son wasn't into them, so I gave them to one of my students who was well into their comic books, and I think he was very, very delighted. But going back to 1977, tell you what, actually, because hang on, you could argue there's a large element of Cuchulainn within Sloan. There's other Sloan McRoth, who's the other one, Cormac McArt. I wonder how Cuchulainn scores, I suppose. Very quickly, is he here? We put a picture of Cuchulainn in there. I think it's how Cuchulainn dies, attached to the rock, to the stone. Let me see. I don't think he is in there. He's in this book, actually, but I don't know how he would score. Trying to think of who's a good analog for Cuchulainn, and probably the closest thing to him would be Achilles, I think, in Greek mythology. Not sure if you get why, but the relationship with dogs, I suppose. No, I don't think he's there. Robin Hood, Arthur, yeah. I know, no idea, to be honest. He doesn't die does he die on a hill? He dies attached to a sort of standing stone. Is Oedipus considered a hero or a tragic hero? He's considered both. Randomity. He's certainly a figure that's very much considered in Greek tragedy and plays and so on. So, but yeah, he's absolutely both. Yeah, different ages. Around 20 years. It was very good, Sloan. I really liked it. I've got the Horn God here somewhere, and I have a couple of What's the artist? Goodness gracious, what's the artist called? A couple of well, I'm trying to remember the artist that used to draw Sloan. I have a couple of tattoos by him. He did the ABC Warriors. That's one there. That's two of the ABC Warriors chasing each other. That's Mongrel and that's Macquick, by the way. Simon Bisley, that's his name. Simon Bisley. And I've got the kind of the picture of the Florrie, the red-headed kind of green-eyed earth goddess kind of thing from the Horn God is tattooed on my leg, Brad. So there we go. Robin Hood's a reincarnation of Sloan in the comic. Yeah, they run with the Horned God thing, don't they? And there was a TV series I think it must be in the 80s that kind of took the Robin Hood myth, Robin Hood legend, even really down that road and associate, Robin the Hooded Man. I think there was Clannad did the music for it, and I think it was quite good actually. It was quite a sort of pagan supernatural thing, Don't know if you remember that, or if you got to see that. You're in Australia, aren't you, Brad? Don't know if you got it out there. But it was early 80s. It was quite good. You could probably type in Robin the Hooded Man or something like that on YouTube. You'd probably get the Clannad thing. Oh, Sean Connery's son played it, I think, for it. Jason Connery played it for a while. The idea that the Horn God and Kuranos and all that stuff is quite good. Oedipus. The Oedipus myths are fully attached to the city of Thebes randomly, and the whole, he is a proper hero in that tradition. The funny thing, I think, the thing that always picks up is the whole psychoanalysis thing and what's going on there. And I think whenever we talk about Oedipus, we're looking at Jung next episode, folks, by the way. And I actually thought I would get slaughtered by psychologists and stuff over that episode. But I mean, the research is there, and you know what I mean. I suppose you back your stuff up with your evidence. But the whole Oedipus thing is quite funny, I find. But Oedipus is a very much your proper hero. He's bona fide, if you know what I mean. If you do, it's the nature of his tragedy, I suppose, that even the gods can't really do anything about it because it's just what it is. It's not the whole thing about his mother and his father is that Oedipus means swollen feet. His feet are chained together as a baby. I think the golden chain needs to be thrown off a cliff because there is a prophecy that he will kill his father and marry his mother, that kind of thing. So he's taken away, kind of the shepherd won't do it kind of thing, if you know what I mean. Paraphrasing briefly, and he's raised by a different royal family, a different king and queen, and basically, I suppose that he has knowledge of this curse, and so he has a real understanding that I may kill my father and marry my mother. And as far as Oedipus is concerned, this is unacceptable and goes as far away from his parents as possible. So the whole point is he doesn't really know. Whenever he meets his father on the road, he doesn't know his father is his real father, and his father tries to kill him. So it's in that case, the Oedipus killing your father thing, it's an act of self-defense on the road. And it's because Oedipus is therefore Oedipus Tyrannus, therefore he is an usurper. That he's able to marry the king that he's killed's wife, which happened. He doesn't know is his mother. So there's no subconscious or even any of that kind of thing about Oedipus and his parents. It's the whole thing is unfortunate, and the gods can't. I think you get the sense that Oedipus is so admirable. The gods want to intervene, but I think they can't. There's other agency at work there, So the whole, it's the response to the knowledge of your crime, I suppose, and how he handles it. And then, of course, there's three sort of plays around Oedipus within that Theban trilogy, if you like. There's a whole set of nonsense that goes on there, because then we have his daughter Antigone and the two children who actually sort of fight over the throne, and you get there's this whole seven again. It's a big thing in Greek mythology and Greek drama. And it's quite a detailed detailed myth, and the riddle of the Sphinx is kind of just a little bit of it as he's on the road, because this is the monster that's plaguing Thebes, if you see what I mean. So, but Oedipus is absolutely read into the Oedipus myth randomly. It's very interesting. It's a good set of myths. And Oedipus is a tragic character, but he tries to do the right thing, and it's not. He's not how he is as presented by psychologists and counselors and psychoanalysts, I suppose. So there we go. Different ages. Haven't read it in 20 years. It's a good while since I stopped buying it, but I read it for a long time there, Brad. Oh, and the Robin Hood reincarnation scene in the comic. But yeah, Besley. Let's just catch up. Besley did Judgment in Gotham, Dredd versus Batman. It was sublime. Yes, I've got a copy of it here. I was nearly in the Judge Dredd film, the very first one, the really bad one. And at the time, I was in London, and I didn't live too far from. I think it was Shepperton Studios, where it was filmed, and a bunch of people I knew were kind of involved with it. So somebody offered. I had a chance to be an extra in the first Judge Dredd film, and my friend was running around everywhere looking for me because he said, "I know this guy; he'll love it." And I was back in Ireland, so whenever I came back, he was gutted all the extra shooting and stuff. And after seeing the first Judge Dredd film with Sylvester Stallone, I was so glad I didn't see it. I actually saw it for the first time on the boat to was it Harwich to the Hook of Holland? I was on my way to the Hook of Holland, and I watched Batman or Judge Dredd on the boat, and it was just the worst thing ever. I was so looking forward to it. I thought it'd be so good. It was abysmal. The new Dredd's much better. So yeah, but Judgment on Gotham is really good. Dredd versus Batman, and it's nice to see that. In the pecking order of the things, that Judge Dredd seems to gives Batman a good old kicking, doesn't he? Just a wee bit of a workout. I do like that. Of course, Judge Dredd doesn't like vigilantes. You've got lots of sort of Bat impersonator type guys in the Mega City one. Chris Gibson says, "Show me age here." I had a Clannad album. Sorry, not on that monitor there. Show me age here. Had a Clannad album with music from the series. Herne the Hunter was the character who appeared to Robin. Was it a Robin? Wood man or something? It's very. You know, Clannad. I don't know. I don't mind Clannad, I suppose, but it's a bit. I suppose it's a bit more Morris Dancey type stuff than what they usually do, I suppose. Keith says, a friend of mine had access to some of the sound redubs of the Stallone Dredd movie. There's a half-hour tape of him saying, "I am, yeah," in different inflections. Almost everything I know about voice control, Keith, I learned from Judge Dredd. And he was miscast just on that alone. It was that moment in the film where he goes, "I am," and he's meant to be, there's a lot to do with Judge Dredd's voice, that he can get people, whole city blocks to arrest, just surrender, walk out, just with his voice in the comics, So there we go, a wee bit of a Judge Dredd. The Dredd movie, the recent one, was great, by the way. I loved it. I am. Yeah. I really like Sylvester Stallone. I quite like to do a wee bit of an impersonation of him there, but we did it for years. But yeah, he wasn't the law. He was a very, very, I don't know. I mean, myself and my wife watched that film recently because I quite enjoy watching really bad films. I was just going. It hadn't occurred to me, was it, that the judges' uniforms in that film are designed by Gucci or something like that? And I just noticed it on the screen and face palmed myself. Just went terrible. Hello, Sean. Popping in to say hi. Thanks very much for joining us. We've shifted a wee bit on to Judge Dredd, but we were talking about different heroes and how they may score on Lord Raglan's scale. I think the funny thing about it, we ended up going from, I think we talked about Oedipus, we went to Robin Hood, Sloan from 2000 AD. I suppose maybe quite a few of you don't know Sloan at all. Bear with me 1 second. See if I can give you an introduction. I don't know if I have any. I think I've got one here. Possibly. So there's only comic books. There we go. Bear with me a wee second, folks. Try not to destroy the place as usual. Slowly, where did you go? I don't know. Well, I'm not too sure if I found it. But oddly enough, I suppose you go looking for one thing in this house. Oh, no, that's not. There we go. Batman Judge Dredd. Judgment in Gotham, isn't it? Die Laughing. That's Die Laughing one. But I have some nice additions of Sloan there somewhere. But yeah, I've got rid of an awful lot of my 2000 AD stuff. So if anybody doesn't know, Schloney's a kind of a bit of a Cuchulainn Cormac McArt kind of amalgam of different Irish mythological heroes. And it is a comic strip by, is it Pat Mills, isn't it? Brad, appears in 2000 AD. I'm not sure if he's still going or not. But the very good story, there's the Horn God, and I'd say the best of all the Slane stories, Sloaney stories, is the Horn God, and yeah, the artist would be Simon Bisley, and I think the writer's Pat Mills. Sort of comic book royalty in United Kingdom. Brad Rose, I don't think that Australia has any heroes that do the path at all. The Aboriginal stories don't focus on humans like an epic that I'm aware of. They explain natural phenomena and the dream time and stuff like that. Interesting. I suppose that's the thing to me, Brad, and what you've just said is kind of, there you go. There ain't no monomyth. If you see what I mean. There is no ritualistic pattern to myth, because certainly I can find exceptions to the rule. You've just found one, you know. How can you have a heroic journey if you don't have a hero? If you see what I mean. Some stories aren't about people. Sean saying, cool, I'll check it out. I literally do have it here somewhere. I wanted just to give you an idea of the artwork in it, but I'll end up just showing you tattoos on my legs. But if you have a wee look at it, the Simon Bisley art, just have a wee nosy on YouTube. Very, very good. And he would have done the book 4 of Nemesis in black and white, which is where that tattoo's from there. That's Mongrel and that's Mercury, the ABC Warriors. So got a bunch of wee 2000 AD tattoos, guys. I'm sure you've figured out from the little biochip, which is my own little version of the Rogue Trooper biochip. But there you go. So yeah, it's great stuff, Sean. Actually, very good. It has that kind of post neo-paganism attitude to it, I think. Burroughs and the post First Fleet stories are underdog stories. Post First Fleet stories. I don't know those ones. I'm not too sure what you're talking about there, Brad. I've not got the reference. First Fleet stories or underdog stories. Post First Fleet. Can you give me a wee bit of context for that, Brad? Hi, David. I'm not sure. Post First Fleet. Or is it First Fleet stories? First Fleet. Oh, I got you. Right. Okay. Sorry, my ignorance. Absolute ignorance there, Brad. Thank you. First Fleet was a fleet of 11 ships that brought the first European settlers to Australia. According to Wikipedia here, it was made up of 2 Royal Navy vessels, 3 store ships, and 6 convict transports. May 1787, the fleet under the command of Captain Arthur Phillip with over 1,400 people left Portsmouth, England, and took a journey of over 24,000 kilometres in over 250 days to eventually arrive in Botany Bay, New South Wales. I know what we're talking about now. Thank you very much. Sorry, Brad, I thought you were talking about a science fiction set of books there for a minute. The First Fleet. You know how often people overlay real life events into science fiction. So thank you very much. I love the film. Right, Brad, here you go. You ready? I love the movie Hercules Returns. It's really hard to get over here. Really, really hard to get. I'm Hercules, son of a god. How is that? My favorite bit in that film is where the guy says, "Brad, now it's time to ride like the wind," and the guy goes, "Well, how do we do that?" And he goes, you just go wee." You know what I'm talking about, Brad. I don't know if anybody's seen this film called Hercules Returns. It's an Australian film. I don't want you could let me know what year it's from, Brad. And it's kind of it's a meta cinema film, I suppose. It's about a cinema that closed once upon a time and it's reopening. And it's kind of about the little cinema in competition with the evil corporate cinema, if you like. And what they do is they decide to get the last film that was shown in the cinema before the cinema closed down. And it happens to be one of these Italian, what would you call it, sword and sandal type movies from the 50s, 60s. And it's Hercules Returns. The evil cinema villains arrange for the wrong film. They get the right film, sorry, but they get the Italian dub. So what you have is an entire movie inside a movie where the people who run the cinema do all the voices of everything that's going on in the film. And if you haven't seen it, it's hilarious. And they go with Hercules, and all the voices are super exaggerated, that kind of thing. And their names are like things like testiculi and stuff. And not say anymore, but if I can't get that film anywhere over here, Brad. I've been chasing it for a long time. It's a really good film. Highly recommend it. I'm trying to think what's the name of the actor. Is Bruce Spence in that, Brad? I'm trying to remember. The gyro captain from Mad Max 2. The other captain. But there we go. It's a great film. Super Surreal says, "Hey Doc, good to see you're still spreading the spice towards June Day. Do you have your tickets yet? Not on sale here." I'm checking the cinema, but they're not on sale. You can't even buy them. It's not even being advertised as it's coming soon, kind of in the future. So unfortunately, no. And the government here has announced that there's no social distancing in films and theatre and cinemas, which is a bit worrying because we're not dealing with COVID well at all, and we're heading towards. So it's funnily enough, I think I was chatting to let's see, who was I was chatting to? I think I was chatting to Dr. Kennedy, or by email. I think she was saying that New Zealand has gone back into lockdown, and it looks like she'll not be seeing it in the cinema there. So it's not looking brilliant at the minute because, quite frankly, safety is more important. But as I said, by hook or by crook, I hope to get there. And if it comes to it, I'd like to see it on my own in the cinema. All I'll say is where there's a will, there's a way. And I put it this way: I'm going to see it in the cinema. Dear, if I have to evacuate the whole country to do it, I'll work on. Oh dear, that sounds amazing. Appeals to my love of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Sean said, yeah. Can you play discs from other regions if I track it down in America? I think we can, but we have to reset everything, and then it'll give you five plays, and you're locked out. So we tend to just sort of not worry about that kind of thing, chase MP4s and that kind of thing. But no, obviously I've seen it before. It'll probably turn up on. It's probably on Amazon or Netflix or something. I wouldn't see why not. I'm very much a person who misses their old DVD store, or their old video shop. When I go onto Netflix and Amazon, I'm not used. I don't want to look at 4 things here, 4 things there, 4 things there, 4 things there, and then scroll. I'm a human being. I can look at thousands of things at once, and I'd like to be able to stand back and go, I don't know. It doesn't suit me. I just miss it all, I suppose. But you can't pine for the past, But there we go. But yeah, it's a great film. Hercules Returns, very, very funny, just a pure comedy. So yeah, great film. They should have done a whole Brad. They should have done a whole bunch of those actually, because there's a whole cluster of those kind of Italian sword and sandal movies. I think they could have had a wee series going there. But yeah, as you say, Sean, it's kind of in the mode of Mystery Theatre, is it 3000? Um, Mystery Science Theatre 3000, but it's very well written. It's a classier thing, if you like, and I'm not sure how much of it's improv or not, but it is very funny. And I said that the film within the film is seamless, and then kind of at the end it bleeds out, and it's great, a good laugh. Let's see, we even have tickets for sale on sale here in Slovenia for the 20th already. Planning your fourth screening. No, I kept thinking you were in America there for a bit there, Carol, and you were not been over the Canadian border or something. But yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I've been checking it here. I'll have a wee quick look now and see. But I've been looking on a daily basis, and certainly, you know, in terms of can we go book our tickets? Can we get ready and have that sense of anticipation? And I'm going to tell you right now that the answer is no. But you have to remember, guys, Northern Ireland is such a progressive country. We're so far ahead of people. You know, we don't need things like booking our tickets and stuff like that. And, you know, long-term COVID care, that kind of thing. We don't need any of those kind of things. Oh dear, sorry, I'm just being silly. But yeah, I hope you have all got your tickets, and have you got yours yet? Super surreal. Or have you seen it yet? I don't know who's seen it and who's not, but as we count down to when it's coming out, I think we're getting more and more people around the world who've already seen it, and it's good. I suppose again it's quite hard for people to spoil it for us, you know. Brad Rose says Ned Kelly, the Eureka Stockade, fighting against depression. Ned Kelly, you can apply to your hero, if you like. I don't know too much about him, Brad. I've just seen the old oh god, was it a Mick Jagger film? But he is a kind of folk hero, isn't he? Not, you know, kind of a la Billy the Kid. We're a virgin, I've seen more knobs than lost. Very good. I had a cracker one today, but it's I'm trying to remember it. I have to say I just can't think of what it was, but it made me laugh so much. Are you going to Austria for the first rounds? Yeah, got you, Karen. Canada is as unlucky as the US. Oh, are they? I thought Canada was like. I actually thought Canada is where it started, because I thought Denis Villeneuve isn't he Canadian? Isn't he? I thought so. I don't know. I must have got. So Canada hasn't got it yet either. Oh, okay. I genuinely thought. Oh, I just thought that was something to do with maybe where it was. I must have misassumed that or something. Bruce Spence was the gyro captain. He was. I love Bruce Spence. I think he's great. Very interesting video. Another author I've never heard. Oh, there's always plenty of authors that we'll never hear of. If you think about what I was saying about the classical world, science fiction world, I will never read all of either. It's not possible. You can't read everything in life, I suppose. Carl Sagan said the trick is to read the right books, which I think is a good idea, you know. So, but thank you. We've got a bunch of people in with us tonight. Thanks everybody for joining us. We're chatting away as usual about all things science fiction. Can we get our tickets for Dune? Who's seen it? Who hasn't? So I don't know. Is anybody else having bother getting tickets? We don't even have an IMAX anywhere near here. I thought that we had one, but it turned out to be a cinema owned by IMAX that isn't IMAX at all. Dear. So there you go. We had an IMAX premiere in TIFF in Canada a while ago. Thank you, Karen. American premiere is October the 22nd, I think. Yeah, I think it's a day after the UK, Sean. We're counting down here to the 21st. And you're Ether Prime, you're in the Philippines. It comes out on the 15th there. So you're 10 more days to go then. It's interesting how we're all waiting for it in different ways, I think. And I don't know, for some people, the anticipation, like myself, I think it's great. It's like a sense of excitement building up to, you know, and I suppose it's because it's been so long since I've been to the cinema. I'm really looking forward to it. Pardon me. It really will be actually something special, regardless of being in June, just because we haven't been out much here ourselves at all for a long time. And I think Gyro Captain's my snake. I'll try it on holiday. Do you remember Lingerie? I love the Gyro Captain. I was talking about that film just the other day, because it was the third video I ever saw, and all the first three videos I ever saw were all had all quite horrific endings, and I was a little kid. There we go. Let's see. Keith says, need to figure out the babysitting thing for a 3-year-old before I can get tickets. Babysitting. Logistics. So there'll probably be a midnight showing on the 21st. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm hoping, I think. That would be quite cool. But again, our cinema, I think, I don't know, it's not the best. So we're a wee bit out in the sticks here, but not so much, I suppose. Belfast has got a few sounds, but I was actually looking where's IMAX, and I'm actually pretty sure there's one tiny little IMAX in Belfast, and I think it's privately owned or something. I might be wrong. There might be one at the Odyssey. Don't know. But just around here, no, it's not an option. So just a normal cinema screen is our best bet, I think, Yeah, I had a desktop counter for 2.5 years. Yeah, you've been waiting for this a long time, Carl. So far, it's a big hit worldwide. I'd agree. And I think that there's nobody really. I haven't heard any particular complaints about the film. I was looking at a couple of things. Carolyn sent me a few actual news snippets and stuff, which was nice because I hadn't read them, and it was good to get a wee bit of insight into those. But from the point of view that I can see at the minute, yeah, it's very positive about the film, and yeah, I think Danny will have to get his head on and get on with part 2 pretty fast. I think that's what's the fact that that we're going to have to wait a bit longer for this other one, and it is a part 1 and part 2. I'm almost finished the first Dune book, and I'm trying to think of the sort of action towards the end. There seems almost a bit of an imbalance in just in how the narrative works, and I'm just thinking about where it ends. I'm sure some of you guys know, and I have a fair idea where the first film ends. And I'm just trying to figure out how they're going to build up a film of equal length, maybe, out of what remains. But there's plenty actually to do it with, I suppose. Let's have a look. See, I don't like the Pink Floyd music, by the way. I'm going to stand here and say, quite sorry, folks, I really don't like it. And I have a particular loathing for that type of music that's taking a classic rock song and just wrecking it. I'm sorry, it didn't need anything done to it. But just personal opinion, leave Pink Floyd alone. And I don't think of other things. Let me just catch up with you a bit there, guys, because we've got a bit of text here. I think English language releases in the 22nd globally. Right. The early release for non-English is to avoid piracy from the HBO Max release, which will have other languages and subtitles. I'm not sure if we're going to get I don't think we can get HBO Max in the UK at the minute, which is a pity, because if we can't see it in the cinema safely, then I think that's our only option. No, there are other options. I'm gonna stop doing that. The film trailer with the Pink Floyd gave me goosebumps. The bit with the soldiers falling slowly down against a black background almost made me want to leave the rest of the film a mystery. Everyone's saying just see it in IMAX. I know, and that's a hard thing to take when you can't, isn't it? It's Karen, just make sure you plan a second screening the first time as a chaotic mind game of balancing anticipations, expectations, and book comparisons with the experience. The second time is pure joy. I kind of had that with Mad Max Fury Road. I went to see it the first time on my own, and just whoa, and then took my wife to see it the second time. Really, I think I enjoyed it equally, but the first time it just blew my face off. It was quite a visceral experience, And again, I'd seen Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome in the cinema, but the first two I wasn't old enough, so it was a very different Mad Max. The experience of Mad Max in the cinema was. Just loved it, just brilliant. So we do like a cinematic experience. It's a long time since we see films like that. The one that I really like to see is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'd love to see that on the big screen, and it does turn up around here now and then, but I tend to miss it, sadly. But thanks for that, Carol. Brad Rose says, I wonder how Captain Carrot from Pratchett's Discord would fit into the hero's journey. You can. Well, that's the thing. You can take your heroes literary otherwise and have a bit of fun with it. You need their biography. You don't need to know their circumstances of their birth, etc., etc. It can be fun doing that kind of thing. As I said, especially because we all have different cultural heroes. If you see what I mean. Carol says I wasn't a fan of the cover of the trailer either. Thankfully, the movie score is just Hans Zimmer going bonkers. Good. Best thing about David Lynch's movie was the soundtrack. Ether says, yeah, the soundtrack's really good. Yeah, isn't that? He's that Brian Eno, isn't it? And who else is it? Toto, is it? Yeah, thank you. Brad says Toto. I think is it the Messiah theme's Brian Eno. Might be wrong. Excuse me, folks, I might be wrong. Hopefully, I'm doing a lot less coughing tonight. I have really upped the cough suites. Such cough medicine. I just had to accept to myself that I had a bit of a cold. Whereas I'm one of these people that just goes, "No, I'm fine." Just keep going. There's a coffee shop here called Dune Coffee. I still need to take a selfie in front of it and caption "The pumpkin spice must flow." Oh, hang on, I've missed a couple. Let me backtrack a wee bit, guys. I think this thing about can't keep trust me, June part 2. Well, plenty to do by itself. The two-part structure, so they don't have to cram everything together. Yeah, I suppose. Soundtrack is most excellent. I'm looking forward to hearing it. I do like movie music a lot. I'll tell you, if you want to get a sense of me and my movie music, I hardly buy anything, to be honest. But I suppose whenever it comes to things, people ask, for presents and stuff. That's kind of, would you get me a book or would you get me a piece of music? But my wife got me James Horner, and I have 3 CDs. So it's Battle Beyond the Stars, Krull, and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. They're all the same composer, and he did a couple of other things at the time. But if you look at the 3 pieces of music, the 3 films, it's kind of him learning his craft and evolving it, and you can find common leitmotifs and stuff in those. And I absolutely love those pieces of music. But I don't know if any of you know Krull, but the music in Krull is just one of the greatest soundtracks ever. Regardless of what you think of the film, the music is incredible, and it's kind of that refinement of looking at a movie composer working on 3 different films and kind of working with refining it, and then but he does the Star Trek 2 thing, it's fantastic. And I spent a wee while actually on the guitar attempting to play like James Horner's orchestras. I'm just going dun dun, doing a little dun 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 dun. We things like that. I've been having enormous, because I don't play music professionally anymore, so I just muck around for fun. And but that's my kind of movie music, and things like Basil Polidoris, Conan the Barbarian stuff. Love it. Excuse me. If I remember right, I don't know much about Hans Zimmer. I don't think I would have ever bought a soundtrack by him, but I think as he does a lot of guitars, doesn't he? He's a and brings in stuff around it. That kind of maybe I'm wrong. I might be mixing him up with someone else. Sorry, we another wee sidetrack about science fiction music. Brian Eno minus the tinsel jacket. Sure, he wore plenty worse. Dear, but yeah, yeah, I was a big fan of the esoteric nature of the David Lynch film. I think it's great. Sean McAllister says, curious if you've observed in a sci-fi a shift from the hero as an individual to the hero as an organization. Paul Toledo, Empire to Bene Gesserit. Yeah, well, we were just talking. I think we were talking about that a wee bit yesterday, Sean. Just that, who at the end of the last 2 books, really, if we hit Chapter House, where's our hero? If you see what I mean. And we talked about, it's quite interesting that we don't know quite who our hero is at the end. And we also have that note to the Bene Gesserit, isn't it? Something like, what are you going to do at the end of the world kind of thing. So yeah, it could be a shift to an organization. Can I think of Curious if I've observed in science fiction a shift from the hero as individual to the hero as organization. Yeah, sort of. I'll tell you the book I'm thinking on, Tiger. If I read again, read these things so many times, Gully Foyle becomes something else, and Tiger, if you see what I mean. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility in the Dune universe where it's left that we could be looking at the hero as an organization, as the Bene Gesserit, as a school, if you wish. But it could be again we're expecting it could be Teg as well because Teg doesn't fit the Teg doesn't fit Frank Herbert's Camelot pattern. It's either pricing. Yeah, it's pretty good. I love Krull Breastmaster. Freudian slip there. Just joking. Beastmaster, I think you mean there. But could be. Red Sonja and both Conan movies. I love them too. And I know the second Conan movie is a bit naff, but I still like it. But yeah, Krull is a great film. I absolutely love Krull. Krull's got a lot of great mythological tropes in it, and it's an attempt to kind of make a mythological kind of science fiction film and almost ground it in fantasy. It's great. Oh, Battle Beyond the Stars is so good. I'm going to catch up here, guys. Wrath of Khan is one of the best science fiction movies ever. Moby Dick in space. It's great. I love it randomly. Saw it in the cinema the first time. Came out crying, man. I saw all the Star Trek films, all of them in the cinema. I saw all the Battlestar Galacticas in the cinema too, would you believe? I saw Battle Beyond the Stars in the cinema, and it's one of my all-time favourite films, Keith. Seven Against Thebes, The Magnificent Seven, The Seven Samurai, and to join in that company, the Battle Beyond the Stars, it's great. It's cheesier than a cheese factory smothered in cheese. With a big dollop of cheddar on top. It is, but it works so well. And I'll tell you what, Sean, that's another film I came out of in tears as a very little kid. I'd absolutely try. Everybody's dead, but I loved it. And sometimes we forget how much we enjoy these things as children. That you can take off your adult hat and go, because I've got Battle Beyond the Stars. It's on this computer. I've got it on DVD, and it's a watch anytime film. What's not to like? It's got John Saxon as the bad guy just at the end. I will live forever. Oh, boom. It's great. And it's up there in good company, as I said. It's just one for all the family, I think. But is it the actor? I can't remember his name, but I know him in this country. I suppose in this country from the Waltons. I can't remember his name. I think it's a great film. Sorry. I don't know what you guys think, if you've seen it or not, but it's a Roger Corman, isn't it? One of his. It is absolutely cheesy, super mega cheese, and it's got a great cast, and even got one of the Magnificent Seven playing the same role. I think pretty much. The Wrath of Khan soundtrack is great. He works Kirk and Khan's themes together so well in the build up to the fight over Regulus. I always love the strings from the soundtrack. Spock points out the damage to the Enterprise. My favourite wee bit in that's actually where they look at the Genesis caves. You know those. Those kind of nice sort of epic. Look. When she says, "Can I cook?" or "Can I cook?" That. But all three soundtracks are very similar, guys. If you listen to that's what I mean. That's what I'd love to do a program on them, but I'd be worried about. I wouldn't know how to get away with it in terms of, all this nonsense about paying the composers or whatever music online. As much as it'd be criticism, I couldn't do a program without pointing out this piece of music, that piece of music, and that piece of music. But there's another one that I don't have, but I can't remember the name of the film. But the three that I was telling you about, Battle Beyond the Stars, and not quite so much, but there's a lot of the leitmotifs are on it. But Krull and Wrath of Khan, very similar, really good. And yes, the way he builds tension is just there was kind of very much I don't think he would have been out of place doing the old-fashioned, kind of Errol Flynn type Robin Hoods and stuff. It's great use of horns and stuff. Sorry about that, another off on a wee one there. But yeah, they're great soundtracks. Love the strings from of course, the Amazing Grace at the end of that is pretty punchy as well. It's probably the best version of Amazing Grace you'll ever hear, but it's designed to get you into tears, isn't it? It's a great one. I don't remember the cartoon Starblazer theme song. Starblazer. I didn't remember that one. Sometimes we get things in different names. Oh, I know that. Oh, it's Battleship. Ah, okay. Space Battleship Yamato. No, I've never seen that. Don't think we got it over here. Possibly we did. The one that I like of all of those is Battle of the Planets, and again, it's got a really good introduction. Some old TV shows have got such great intros that they're almost better than the program, Breastmaster, nice. I thought that was Beastmaster. I'd like to see a Beastmaster Breastmaster crossover. Keith, autocorrect strikes again. Yeah, I thought that was quite good. Heads up, here we go. Let me just back up there. Karen's saying Hans Zimmer said he was trying to get as far away from the typical John Williams epic space opera score as possible because he thought it was odd they'd have trumpets in a galaxy far, far away. Why? I don't know, I suppose. Laughing my ass up. Stephen King movie Maximum Overdrive. That's a good film. I haven't seen that in a long time. All AC/DC. It's Emilio Estevez, isn't it? That's an old one. So I focused on the human voice while also trying to invent new instruments. Like new instruments. Enemy Mine was really good too. Is that a Wolfgang Peterson film, I think, Ethan? And it's kind of a remake. It's kind of a remake of Robinson Crusoe on Mars, isn't it? I really like Enemy Mine. It's Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr., isn't it? It's really good. I actually have to go do some work, he says. I'll leave you with this thought. Did Piter destroy the Sook great school of thought by breaking Yui? Who could trust the Imperial conditioning after that? That's a really good point, Keith. I don't think anybody alludes to it at all. We really hardly see it. Do we see any Sooks? Really? But yeah, I suppose, it depends on if his death is kept. I think it's kept quiet, isn't it? By the Baron and the Sardaukar, I think they don't want it to get out that the traitor was and at that point, I think what they're pushing out to Thufir, etc., and everybody else is that Jessica's the traitor. So I think as far as the Sook school, whatever is concerned, it's within the universe at that time. I think that just Yui's dead and he was killed. At that point, nobody's calling him the traitor, though. How that happened? Well, of course, Paul would take the throne and correct that very shortly. You see, so what happens to the Sooks after? I'll have a look into that. I don't know, but you'd absolutely agree, yeah, that they're symbol of conditioning. But yeah, very interesting point. Ether says, I believe so, Keith. They're never mentioned again as far as I can remember. I don't remember them being mentioned either, but I'll do a wee word search and see if what we can turn up, actually. Brad Rose says, Keith, good call. Yeah. Crimson Flop. Hi, Crimson. Any recommendation on Lord Raglan on what to read? Oh, well, Lord Raglan's the hero. That's it. There you go. And it's not a big book. It's let me see. Oh, I suppose it is 294 pages, but these wee short compact. This is a wee old second-hand book. Let me see, any recommendations on Lord Raglan on what to read? Well, just that book. He does get a lot of things wrong, Crimson, but he's worth reading for a certain reason, if you think. And it's an interesting idea because Raglan's ideas, I think, inform a lot of mythographers who come after him, and especially people like Joseph Campbell. But I would recommend, if you want to kind of around the same sort of, just around within 100 years or so, either way, this book, let me see. I'll hold it up a wee bit just so you can get its full, is Thomas Carlyle's. Now it's on heroes, hero worship, and the heroic in history. If you can see that. And that's an excellent book. And I actually think I've owned these books since before I was 18, both of them. I've had them ages. They're a really good they're a good pair. If you see what I mean, I would read them together. If you're looking for really good books on mythology, I'd recommend, as I said, Apollodorus's Library of Greek Mythology is the oldest extant book on Greek mythology, and it's not thick. It's about here somewhere. This is the other book. If you're interested in Greek mythology, it has the Theogony by Hesiod. It's very thin too. That's the creation myth of the gods. Robert Graves has got some good books on the Greek myths. These are very much general mythological books. These are looking at particularly the hero, I suppose, is the trend there. So the other one that would lead you to then obviously is this stuff will take you to Jung and his archetypes of the collective unconscious that we're going to look at next. And I think that's in volume 3 of his books. And then it would be Campbell. But at the same time, as I said, this isn't how you study myth, but their book doesn't make their books rubbish. If you see what I mean, I think they're good reads. It's just sometimes their conclusions aren't correct, but doesn't mean you can't learn some stuff from them. I think you should be able to pick them up. I'd say Raglan's still in print. I'd say both are still in print, to be honest, probably. But they're you definitely pick them up public domain, probably Gutenberg if you can't, Project Gutenberg if you can find them. But I've spotted them in secondhand bookshops. So just that really is Lord Raglan's book. It's a good wee book, but there's plenty of stuff. We do Crimson. There's a full bibliography of everything in this series, and the very last episode. Now there are versions of the last episode up, so if you want to get a full reading list from it, we had a bit of problem with sound on some episodes, so that's why we've remastered them. So if you do want to look at the deep dives, etc., if you pick the last episode, go right to the very end, you'll get a full reading list on everything that's here. Pardon me. Sean says they do come up, Sooks, in God Emperor of Dune. People who have a marketplace mentality can also be described as having a Sook mentality. That's the Sooks, because the word Sook is also the word for a water cellar. We have some words changed. I wonder if it's still the same meaning, if it's this, or maybe it's merged with them. Sean, thank you for that. I'll have a wee look at it. Good point from Keith. Never occurred to me, but I believe, yeah, it's kind of, and some things are just, where are they? What's going on? But yeah, why would you ever trust a Sook doctor again? If the point is, I suppose you shouldn't trust in absolutes. I put it this way: one of the things that we were discussing in terms of COVID, and it's not a very nice thing to talk about, is that with all the death and stuff going on in hospitals and stuff, it's a great time to be a serial killer, isn't it? And we were just actually discussing that the one profession that has more serial killers than any other is doctors. Now you teach a bunch of kids from a school here up the road, and it happens to have a and most of them don't know this, but it's one of its alumni is I think possibly one of Britain's biggest mass murderers ever, and I think he's beyond Harold Shipman. So doctors, the most common profession of a serial killer is doctor, I believe. What does it say about who we trust and why do we trust people? Why do we trust absolutes? And it's the one thing that the attorneys will not look at, isn't it? It's just silly. One Sook doctor from the scattering shows up. I see, with an orange tattoo. Is this? I take it, Sean, that's in the Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert books, I think, is it? Or is that in the original books? Point that a few days ago was the first novel introduced a lot of things which with the glossary that were no longer referenced in the later novels. Yeah, randomly, there's a bunch of stuff but there's a lot of stuff in the appendices that's really important, and that's the thing we're talking about. What's payoff and what's not, and what will they ever talk about again? It's kind of interesting. Karen says, I find it so interesting how Dune spoils you as the traitor off the bat, letting you observe the story without the distraction of the mystery about a traitor as it was a big plot twist. Yeah, it's important to everybody. Is that you off, Karen? But take it easy. If you're not off, by the way, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a big plot twist off. Otherwise, let's see. Well, that's the point. We're always being, they're letting us observe the story, as you say, without the distraction. We've got foreknowledge. We're way ahead of everybody else. We're viewing everything as history. So that's the thing. That's part of the part of Dune's charm. It's part of the trick on the reader, is that we're complicit. We are. We can see. We're forewarned, and it's not somebody. We were chatting about this in terms of literary chops. We were talking about, is it foreshadowing? It's not. We have absolute foreknowledge. We know what's going to happen. And it makes us kind of go, oh no, why doesn't she do this? Why doesn't he do that? And we're powerless to do anything about it as well. So there we go. Crimson Flap says, on Hero Worship, got thanks to lots of good books on mythology, Crimson. And I personally would recommend, if you ever just want to read generally on mythology, grab some Robert Graves. I think he's great. A lot of people like to put him down, but they don't have his reputation, let me put it that way. I think Robert Graves is great. And the Golden Bough, by the way, Fraser's Golden Bough is an incredibly important book on myth. Do you call an elm tree an elm? Like you say, film. Elm, yes. Actually, an elm tree. Film is a very particular Northern Irish thing, I think. I used to get. I had to adjust how I talked enormously when I lived in London. People couldn't understand a single word I said, and my wife tells me the same experience when she was over in Hull, I think. And Northern Irish people speak very quickly, but yeah, and how we pronounce certain things. Film is a film, I don't know, but boot and soot and things like that. We have a way with certain words that can be sometimes quite lyrical and sometimes quite harsh, I suppose. No. Great at saying the word no. It's one of my old nicknames. Just no. That's it. Oh dear. So, like White Rabbit in the Matrix trailer. You call an elm tree, right? White Rabbit. I've lost your trail of thought there, Fraser. White Rabbit. Boom, dum, dum, dum. I haven't looked at the new Matrix trailers, actually. If that's what you're talking about, I have to. But there's the White Rabbit is the whole Alice in Wonderland thing there, isn't it? Brad Rose, Dionysus would mess with the hero's journey, but I guess he was a god, not a hero. No, Dionysus is right there as one of these. As we were saying, as Muhammad, and so the one character that a lot of these guys would not look at, one whether historical or mythological, is Jesus. But Dionysus, very much so. Dionysus, you can look at in terms of a set of myths about a technology, and that technology is viniculture, how to make wine. And if you look at the myths, generally they're about people who either learn how to make wine and have a nice party time, or don't really do what Dionysus tells them and makes wine that's far too strong, and they all go mad and kill themselves. So, but the stories of Dionysus kind of moving around with his drunken followers and so on is kind of the story of how viniculture moves around that part of the world. And he's very similar to we're talking about. Yeah, he has aspects of lots of other gods, and so he's a kind of shoe-in Olympian, if you see what I mean. Not an original Olympian. But he would mess with the hero's journey, but I guess he was a god. No, we can apply gods to the hero's journey. And that's kind of what these guys' work is actually about. Just very quickly to read you the setup of Carlyle's to the hero is that he examines the hero from different points of view, and the first one is hero as divinity. He generally picks with an example and runs with it, and he goes Odin. So his first chapter is the hero is divinity. The hero is a god. Odin, paganism, and Scandinavian mythology. Chapter 2 here is the hero is prophet, and so he goes with Muhammad and Islam. And then he goes chapter 3 is the hero is poet. So he's looking at Dante and Shakespeare, literary heroes. Hero is priest, Luther. hero as a man of letters. He has Johnson, Rousseau, and Burns there, and the hero is king. He uses Cromwell and Napoleon. So there are many different types of heroes to people. I suppose, really, when we're looking at the hero within the Dune series, we're looking at the classical idea of the hero. We're also looking at the science fiction hero, and in particular, we're looking to what Herbert calls contemporary heroes. So you have to ask yourself, who are your heroes? Who are your role models, if you want? Who do you admire? And that kind of thing, I suppose. And so the word has become quite diluted, and we talk about everybody's a hero these days. And the hero's journey is fundamentally associated with death. So the good thing is, I suppose, it's a bit like anything. If you read one book on this, you get one point of view, And if you go, well, that's great, I believe that's what myth's like, then that's grand. But then you get something, read these two together, and it'll start going, start piling the thing, and it's partly through not these guys don't get everything wrong, if you see what I mean. There is worth in their work, and how you build up good knowledge on a subject, or just to enjoy it, is read what you can within it. I suppose. So there's so many good things in mythology, there's so many very poor things. It's been seen with folklore, and I'll tell you one that I have a big problem with is trying to get a good translation of Aesop's fables, and I have one, and it's in bits, and I really I read Aesop's fables every year. Love them. They're not morals, by the way. A lot of people think Aesop's fables are morals, and they're not. They're fables just because they're educational, but they're not about how to be nice. They're about how to be sensible, how to survive, I think. Aesop's about 600 BC. He's a slave, but incredible body of work. Often you'll find Roman names substituted within it. And anytime I hit the bookshop, see a nice copy, really looking for it, but I want the Greek names in there. It's as simple as that. And I really don't like the shift of when the fox talked to Jupiter. I don't know. I want when the fox went to talk to Zeus. If you see, that's my big gripe about it. And I have a copy here. But the Aesop's fables were heavily censored for a while, I believe. A bunch of them were left out due to something to do with the French government, I think. There we go. Let me just catch up a wee bit, folks. I watched an interview here. Frank admits he wrote the story in such a way to give the reader a limited understanding of prescience. Yeah. It's meant to be read many times and at different ages. Prescience reminds me of that thing in physics where to measure something changes it. Yeah, the prescience in Dune is mathematical to a degree. So it's based on like that kind of probability. You get the sense that the pre-Paul Atreides, the prescience is that it's kind of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. These kind of things. The more we observe something, the more we know about its location, the less we know about its speed. This kind of thing. So again, a lot of this stuff's hitting the popular consciousness, I think, at the time. Crimson Flat says, I've always wondered why Christianity is not included in Dune's religious practices. Did Frank talk about why? It's all over it there. Crimson, you get the Orange Catholic Bible. You'll see I created one to put in it. But no, Gurney Halleck, is particularly, there's a lot of Christianity there. He's much more like Muhammad than he is like Christ. And on the Christian side of things, Paul's more like Paul of Tarsus. I said, well, he's named for sort of Paul of Tarsus. But he's a lot of different heroes as well. But no, there's an awful lot of Christianity in there. We were just saying yesterday, there's all three of the Abrahamic religions are very well represented. Judaism, I think, more so towards the Bene Gesserit books, etc. But Christianity is definitely... Gurney Halleck kind of would remind you of a kind of, the way he quotes, what we call a fire and brimstone type of preacher here, but the sort of stuff that he quotes, if you see what I mean. But no, the whole CET. If you look at the appendix, the appendices of Dune, as we were just talking about, give you a wee bit of insight into the religion of Dune. And but yeah, the whole thing is there, and Christianity is very heavily represented, and even the idea of, I suppose, the God Emperor there. There's different aspects. Christianity's got many forms and has had many sects and cults and all sorts of offshoots and branches and weirdness over, like a lot of religions do. Northern Ireland's covered in Christian death cults. They're everywhere. You know, ridiculous. Quantum theory, indeed. That's it. That's what I was looking for. I couldn't remember that. Get my brain going. Back from the gym, Grimdark says, now more discussion. Hi, Grimdark. Thanks for joining us. Frank Herbert said he wrote Dune for those who don't read sci-fi. So why the book is soft sci-fi? Ether, yes, but I guess it's more so the prescience shows what it shows rather than what you're looking for. Yeah, I don't know. I think the prescience is still quite, it works in its way, I suppose, within the story, but I also get I don't know, I get the impression that there's something about it that's not quite right, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, we talked about that, didn't we? That it's whenever people criticize Dune, Grimdark, it's way back at the very beginning. When we're setting it, the very first episode, I think, or else the second episode, the main criticism people attack whether it's hard science fiction or soft science fiction, and then they go after, well, is the ecological message any valid or not? This kind of thing, I don't know. Well, a lot of books that claim to be hard science fiction really aren't. And I suppose whenever you're reading hard science fiction, you kind of know it. If you know what I mean, it does have a level of technicality, perhaps, if that's the right phrase. But I'd say almost all science fiction is soft science fiction to a degree. Just because it mentions the right type of engine or this, if you see what I mean. I don't know. Sometimes just trying to put that into my head. I think that the hard soft association is often just to do with technology, or because we're looking at maybe some kind of social aspect of science fiction. Therefore, we'll call it soft. And more often than not, that kind of science fiction actually is more grounded in reality. So to me, if you had I don't know, it's one of those, it seems like a kind of silly delineation, because I often find it very hard to get, I think almost all science fiction would fit in the soft sci-fi category, if you see what I mean. I'm a scientist. I've got degrees in science, etc. There are sciences that we look at. I teach, for example, I would teach maths. Though I would look at maths as a soft science, if you see what I mean. If I looked at psychology, I wouldn't call it a science at all, and probably get crap from people from that. But if you see what I mean, based on how the approach to it, I suppose. Not saying it doesn't have any validity, but in terms of how it works as a school of thought, shall we say, I don't see psychology as scientific. As I said, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have any validity. But yeah, God, I'm an opinionated so-and-so, aren't I? Brad Rose says, Ether, yeah, but I guess it's more so that prescience shows what it shows rather than what you're looking for. It also starts to, I suppose, what the gaps where you can't look. What's your take on Brian Herbert's books on Dune? Crimson says, Crimson, I'll fill you in. We often get asked about this, but I often get asked about this, but we chat about it. I think it's a half and half thing with people. You either read them and enjoy them or you don't. I've read the three. I wasn't even thinking that they were prequels, but now I realize that they were prequels. I think the House Harkonnen, House Carino, House Atreides. I read those, and I read the two Hunters of Dune and Sandworms of Dune at the time when I was finishing up my PhD here. So I find them fine, but they're not for me. I suppose it's the difference between an attempt to create literature and an attempt to create pulp fiction. They're good enough. They're perfectly fine writers, but as to my opinion on what happens, etc., I can't comment at all. I'm the wrong guy for that. I'm afraid, Crimson. Fire away on the 6 Dune books by Frank. Anything by Frank actually is kind of that. I initially started off to do all my work on Frank Herbert, really, and just because this was so big, it just got out. I'll just get down to the Dune series and just kept narrowing my focus down. But it's kind of the point, I suppose, at that level. So in quantum theory, you can never truly know where something is because the act of measuring quarks and spin particles changes their position. Dog. Oh, hang on, I think I missed something there, didn't I? Hang on, back at track. I guess the moon problem. Grimdark says, Grimdark says, I was raised Greek Orthodox, but I'm lapsed now. Very good. I've never met a Greek Orthodox person. Sorry, you're lapsed, but I've never met somebody who's Greek Orthodox, Grimdark. There you go. So that's a first for me. Thank you. Always good to do new things, meet new people, isn't it? So there you go, Crimson. That's my. I think everybody else in the room could probably give you a better opinion on Brian Herbert's books on Dune, but it does tend to get people a bit hot under the collar, I think. But there you go. But I think that, in terms of modern books, that kind of thing, I don't see them any different than any other kind of sort of that fiction that's produced that way. But as I said, I found it interesting. I saw something about Kevin J. Anderson, Brian Herbert on Twitter not too long ago, and it was just them talking about the process of how they did a book. And I've done my bit, 30 days, new book, Bob's your uncle, let's get on with the next one. And I was impressed by it, shocked by it, and a little bit disgusted by it all at the same time. Not many, but anyway, but just simply understanding it took Frank five years to do one of these, yet these two churned them out in 30 days. I think that says a lot about it. And our strong desire to revisit universes that we love, I suppose. But quality is often better than quantity, I think, Let's have a wee look, catch up. So, Doug, in your dissertation, did you talk about in Dune? It shows how Frank Herbert's views on sexuality changed. Yes, I did, Brad, actually. You'll find it in the conclusions when we get there. Yeah, absolutely. Well, particularly when we get to, as we're going through this thing with the hero, we'll be deconstructing. So at the minute, we're building up your knowledge. So we're showing you this isn't how I would study myth, by the way. This is about how Frank Herbert studies myth, what you're seeing. So we're giving you all the influences first to set up your knowledge. You've just had Lord Raglan. We'll give you a general introduction on the three-pronged attack that Frank makes against heroes. But then we've had a look at Lord Raglan, and Brian Herbert talks away about this Lord Raglan's hero in Dreamer of Dune. Really important, influential book on Frank Herbert. Leads to the collective ideas of the collective unconscious, those archetypes, and then Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces. This body of work here is what Frank Herbert uses to mostly construct his hero. So it's pretty important in terms of looking at him. Excuse me. But so just saying that once we get through this setup, then let's take a look at these heroes. And often we chatted about how the villain, the Baron, is presented in terms of his sexuality, etc. So we do cover a fair wee bit of that, and that his attitudes do mellow over the years, and also that his views on homosexuality, I suppose, as far as I can understand it, don't come from a homophobia, if that makes sense. Most people who hate hate other people, it's because there's some deep scared. They're scared or afraid of something in themselves usually. But it doesn't come from that. My sense is that. So again, whatever you think about this in terms of people's attitudes, but he doesn't view homosexuality in that kind of way. He sees it as an evolutionary dead end. Does that make sense? Which, of course, it's not. So Frank's thinking on this kind of thing isn't that broad, and it's not that clever, to be honest with you. But he changes and he mellows, and again, he has strong opinions about the homosexual nature of the army, in particular, and how within that mystique of making people go into violence and stuff like that. So Dune's a bit of a commentary on that, but. So my understanding, it's hard to get a sense of it from the book, but I think they repaired their relationship, Brian and Bruce, the whole family. And I think my understanding is, certainly from Brian's point of view, his father mellowed in his ideas towards homosexuality, etc. I suppose when some things hit society, it's hard to look back now where we're we consider our society so accepting. I'm in a society that's not. Once again, it's what have you got? What have I got? So different places around the world, my society is just so slow catching up. I don't think I'll ever get there. It's hard to look at how people change, over the times. You can go Frank Herbert's comes across as homophobic in Dune in 1965. What did 20 years of life do to a person? And people change. And the fact that his own son is gay uh, is bound to, have a big effect on how he thinks. And I think his son Bruce was a gay rights activist, I believe. So that it's not just that his son's quite out there and vocal about it and stuff. And I don't know what people think about his attitudes now, but they did mellow. The evidence is there. We talk about it. So there you go. Um, hmm, let me. But yeah, it's you'll particularly have a wee chat about it in the conclusions. Brad, how long ago did I write my dissertation? I started my dissertation in 2006. Brad, it's supposed to be written in 2009, but I actually never completed my PhD course as such. So I had to drop out after pretty well. I had to drop it on it, but my mother was terminally ill, and simply put, we didn't get any help. So it's very hard to get onto a PhD, and if you mess it up, you generally can't get back on it. So no, it was just a case of life circumstances, and my mother needed looking after 24/7. There was no help from the state, no help from anybody. So I kind of just had to drop out. So the PhD you're looking at, it should never have been done, and it's kind of a deathbed request. So because I was pretty disgusted at everything, I wasn't ever going to finish it. So my mum got 3 deathbed requests out of me, and so you're actually, yeah, this is one of them. So they gave me 3 months to do the thing, even though I'd lost a year and a half. And so what you're looking at is the product of 1.5 years research, not 3. And then very quickly shoved together. This is yeah. So what I did was done under the worst of circumstances. And if you actually look at the document, there's no there's no apostrophes in the last chapter because I just could not care less at that point. So so I managed to get it completed in 2010, I think, pretty quick. And yeah, 2010. So the publishing date on the volumes 2010 took another year, another 13 months to actually get my degree from the university, which is appalling. Leave you in limbo for a year. 13 months from handing in to getting your qualification. So I'm not going on, but it's a long time ago. So it was 2010, but I started in 2006. But there you go. So it was one of those things. I'm one of these people that did a little bit every day. If you see what I mean, it's the only thing that got me through. Because if I hadn't done that, I would never have made it. And because I have a sleep disorder, I'm able to work a different kind of shift of work. So I was able to work at it like maybe 20 hours a day for 3 months and just get it done. So there you go. It's just one of those things, and I'm kind of proud of it in a way, and I'm kind of not. Part of me's kind of it could have been so much better, I suppose, if it was done under the right circumstances. But it was it was done under the absolute worst of circumstances, and yeah, even how to get back in is a bit of a story that would probably just shock you. But I wasn't pulling any punches with them, and I went and got the thing and got out, and I never really need to say anything more about the people, to be honest with you. But there we go, 2010. So again, it's a wee while ago. And people ask me about the notes and stuff, and whenever they weren't available at that time, and the Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson were just starting to do those books at the time. So I just have a wee bit of a mention in them, but they were just turning up, if you see what I mean. Excuse me. God, that was a bit of a off on one there. Again, I more despise Kevin J. Anderson as writer than Brian. Kevin's prose is so bad. Ether Prime agreed. I find it hard to tell which one would be which in the books, I suppose. I hate the prose of the books more than the content. Besides the Dune series, do you plan to talk about Frank Herbert's other books? Godmakers was awesome. I'll quickly jump back there a wee second, come back to that Crimson. I hate the prose of the books more than the content. That's the thing. I think you'd love to dip your toe in this universe again, something sounds wrong. It's like Frank's being replaced by a faulty face dancer, isn't it? It's something like that. Um, but as I said, it's. I'm sure the books that I read. I mean, they were enjoyable enough to read, but I felt that I don't need to go this further into the Dune universe, and it isn't of the same. At the same time, this is a dissertation on literature. It's meant to be something of quality. So that's So as I said, I can't really comment on them, but it looks like to me, it looked like they're producing books on almost everything of Dune, and tourists of Dune, bus stops of Dune, worm stops. I thought was quite good. They could do. I don't know. It just seems like mass production, and I think it dilutes things. But I don't hate people, or I don't hate things. I do my best not to. Actually, I've spent a lot of my life hating. As much as I'm a self-described misanthrope, I do my best not to hate. It doesn't really do you any good, I suppose. I like to despise things or pity them, I suppose. But I don't do hatred. Besides the Dune series, do you plan on talking about Frank Herbert's other books? Godmakers was awesome. Crimson Flap says, yeah, Crimson, we've got them all here. So we've got all sorts. Yeah, absolutely. I would. Let me see. We've got all sorts there. We've got the Green Brain. I think you can look at the first three as a little cluster: the Green Brain and Dune and the Dragon in the Sea. But I definitely would like to do something on the Dragon in the Sea. I think it's a great book. Crimson, really, really good. Yeah, I'll actually tell you something. I've got my Viva slideshow from my PhD. I'll maybe try and pop it up on something to let you see at some point. I tried to make use of every little bit of work I'd ever done around the PhD. So all those little extra programs and things that we've done since we started the station, the history of science fiction, definitions of science fiction. These are things I kind of did for myself to help get context at the time. So we've turned them into programs. But the only thing I haven't really used is that is the wee slideshow from the first year of Viva. So let's just catch up. We hit the process of the books more than the content. So yeah, Crimson. I'm here to do all sorts of things science fiction, hopefully, and over loads to catch up on here. So I'm going to tear on down. But yeah, I'll be very happy. It's just I'm a one man show really, and it takes effort and time to do these things. But I absolutely would definitely very happily talk about some other Frank Herbert's work. Let's see. Let's see how soft as the tech as the real world is feasible. I suppose, yeah. Funny enough, I met Alistair Reynolds. I'm having a chat about this kind of thing once. Did he see that his books are seen as hard tech, but not everything there is available yet now? And he, I was actually asking him in kind of terms, did he think that anything that he'd come up with in his books would end up real? But like, Robert Heinlein's Telefactors, the Waldos, that kind of thing. And he kind of pretty much, no, it's too far in the future, I think, the way he said it. But yeah, the tech, I tend to see hard soft as hard as being very tech heavy. It's kind of that kind of anal kind of writing, to be honest with you. I think they're poor distinctions, to be honest with you. I know it's stuff that science fiction academics talk about. I think it's a really spurious kind of delineation. I know what you're saying, that the tech word is real, but all science fiction is kind of meant to be based on what you know. There's meant to be a plausibility to it, if you see what I mean. But I don't know. I've read books and picked them up, and they've been described as hard sci-fi, And when I get through the end of them, I go, well, it's not really, is it? I don't know. It's just one of them funny things. But yeah, I know what you mean. The distinction between hard and soft is generally that it's much more tech heavy, and that the tech is real, that it's realistic, as opposed to see psychic powers, this kind of thing. And Dune, that they're not meant to be psychic powers at all. They're a point. They're all to do with sort of ultimate nerve, physical, mind training, that kind of thing. To be completely in control of one's body, I suppose. But that's the argument. Yeah, we have a good wee chat about it, I suppose. Fraser says, when did Campbell publish his Hero idea? Did it predate Dune? Oh yeah, absolutely. Good question. Good question. Hang on. Oh, where is he? Where would you be? Where would you be? Here we're looking for. We're looking for Joseph Campbell's Here with a Thousand Faces. All right. Is he here? I know these people in the modern day. I should just look it up quickly on the internet, shouldn't I? Save all of this, but I'm actually always look for the actual book. It is here somewhere, I think. Bear with me 1 wee second, folks. I'll go look. It's over here. There you are. There you go. Somebody was asking me the other day about the Grackeye. I was telling them that's there's my standard Usher textbook from the Grackeye to Nero. For the things you find lying around. Here we go, Joseph Campbell, Here with a Thousand Faces, and it's 1949. Second edition, 1968. For the second edition, minor corrections have been made in reference to the collected works of Carl Gustav Jung, and the standard edition of Sigmund Freud have been substituted wherever appropriate. So yeah, 40s. And then, of course, again, there's my copy, and there's the Luke Skywalker thing, I haven't really annotated this too heavily. I mean, it's a good enough read, but the basis that myths. I mean, if you look at this work, this is my problem here. Here we go. And chapter 1 with the Campbell. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get it right up there. It says myth and dream, and that's the problem for me personally. And it is the whole the psychoanalytical approach is that dreams are equated with myth, and that's psychology's, the psychoanalytical world's real problem, because dreams are not myths. End of story. And that's the whole mess, I think, with that. Not that I see that it does any real harm. I just think it's funny. Let's see. So yeah, 1949 for Campbell. That's typo. Oh, no worries. To be fair, about the supposed homophobia in God Emperor, they're portrayed as a relic of the era when the original Duncan lived, for why he doesn't like homosexuality. Yeah, there is. It's a big thing, I think, with Herbert. It is one of his strong ideas about the homosexual nature of the art. It's about also to do with sexual rhythms of war, Grimdark. And I was supposed to get a book for you guys today, but I haven't got around to getting it. But I will get that name of that book for you. So yeah, I mean, it's the all-female armies, a commentary on all male armies, I suppose. I don't know if you know the Monty Python one where all the soldiers do the one, the drill, the army drill, 1, 2, 3, ooh, scratch your eyes out, ooh, 2, 4, like that. I don't know, they're yeah, it's very much that kind of comment. As I said, the supposed homophobia. I'm not sure that. I think it's a criticism of homosexuality. I don't think it's homophobia in that sense, if you see what I mean. So often when people use these words, I think we bandy words like homophobia, etc. It's not always issues to do with homosexuality aren't always to do with homophobia. So we just put it that way. So I don't see it as a homophobic response. It's not fearful. He's trying to investigate it, and I think it's something that interests Frank, is that nature. But particularly, if it's a different world now. For example, a lot of militaries are now male and female, but this is not the case for a long, long time, And I can understand where he's coming from, but I honestly don't know in terms of what it had to do with the son, or how that relationship went, but so I think Frank's got a particular idea and he runs with it as a commentary on homosexuality in the army, etc. You're saying before about the supposed homophobia in God, there's portrayed as a relic of an era when the original Duncan lived, for why he doesn't. Yeah, and you get. I suppose that's right, isn't it? The Duncan represents old-fashioned attitudes sometimes. Hi, Vintage. I see Dune more as sci-fantasy than hard or soft sci-fi. I actually prefer science fiction. Science fantasy to sci-fi, says Ether Prime. Um, I think June's a science fiction book with fantasy trappings, really. But I think it's one of the reasons why June doesn't age well. Oh, sorry, June doesn't age badly. I think that's what it's got going for it. That kind of, what you're talking about, that kind of crossover. There is an attempt to present a scientific reality. It's not perfect, but it's an imaginary universe. The Holtzman technology and so on and so forth. So but I think that's why, because it's you have the retarded atavism of this society that's slowed and halted because of the Butlerian jihad. It doesn't have that far future. You can see the evolution of things in Star Wars these days, that they've really run that all technology must evolve between every film to create a new type of toy, or sorry, a new type of spaceship for the Empire. That kind of thing. But yeah, I think either you were just saying about the sci-fi fantasy kind of thing. I think that's one of the reasons why Dune has lasted, because one of the reasons people think, oh, that's not science fiction, that's not real, is it possibly was real in the general public's imagination at the time. Things change, you see. But yeah, there we go. But I've never read a book by. It's only if somebody's went to me, that's a hard science fiction book, or that's a soft science fiction book, and I go, okay. But I've never read a science fiction book going, a hard science fiction book or a soft one. I've just read them as science fiction books, to be honest. And not being funny, that's just the honest truth, Let's see, we're coming up to midnight, folks. Got about 8 more minutes. I'll try and catch up with your comments. So if you've got, enjoying the banter as always, but I'm going to try and give my voice a wee bit of a rest tonight, because we were piling on for ages last night. I'll just run through all the comments here to see what we can catch up with. I like Arthur. Oh, hang on, let me see. Baron on his surface is quite repulsive and nasty, but at the same time smart and interesting character, intriguing indeed. Yeah, the Baron's a really clever guy. Sharp, very sharp, and quite astute in educating us into the plans within plans type nature of the game. So yeah, the repulsive nature of his physicality is meant to make him an obvious villain. Yeah, particularly the lusting after Paul and all that stuff. Don't know why it's necessary in the plot, but it's just there, I suppose. Just following Isaac Arthur's line on hard stuff. Don't know what that one is, but each to their own. I have my own opinions, but I said I've never read a science fiction book and approached it that way, or thought about it that way, and I've never wanted to see a film and oh, this is a good hard science fiction book. I would probably just think of me when it's quite realistic. It's not. There's a level of verisimilitude, but hard, soft, it's black, white. Where's your grey? If you see what I mean. There are always more than, like, put it this way. Somebody was talking the other day. We were talking about von Clausewitz and the dialectic, approach. And I talked a load of nonsense about how I didn't really know much about him. But saying he was Napoleonic. He's from the Napoleonic era, but he wasn't Napoleon's logistic officer. He's a Prussian. But that kind of dialectic ideal, if you know what I mean. Simply put, I don't know if you know what I mean, but if you have argument A and argument B, you have 2 arguments. But if you put them together, you have argument C. So thesis, antithesis. Put them together, and what you get is synthesis. It's a good way of factually arguing with people, building up arguments and stuff. But there's always 3 options out of any 2, if you see what I mean. So the hard soft. What's a hard soft sci-fi? And it's like your tragedy and your comedy. You have tragicomedy as well. So yeah, I mean, labels are labels, I suppose. But yeah. I like Arthur also, but he doesn't like to talk about science fantasy. I've only seen a couple, so I must nosy through some more of his videos. Vintage. It's like the old thing is, a person is generally what they feel themselves to be, if you know what I mean. It's good to come up with your own opinions, I think. Easy putting it right, and because there's also almost no science engine. Yeah, we've got extrapolated technology and stuff, but we don't get a wild lot. But it does, I suppose there's a grounding, the political science, that sense of it, and the soft. There is so much of it that goes on in the inner space. So I think, yeah, I think particularly with the action taking place mainly off scene, if you see what I mean. I'd say that Dune's action is more of that inner space type of book that we were talking about rather than the outer space, if you see what I mean. See, there's another. Is it the science fiction of the inner space or the outer space? If you know, and it is, these are two terms come up with people from before our time, or around our time. You know what I mean? But it doesn't necessarily make it so. I'll give you a really good example, folks. In the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, we talked about the Robinsonian hero and the Edisonian hero. And in my video, I'll tell you that this is based on the archetype of the Cretan inventor hero Daedalus. Now, in that encyclopedia, whenever they're giving you that description of what the Edisonian is, this is what they say. It's absolutely not based on the idea of Daedalus. No way, no way. No, Daedalus no, can't be him. It's our own idea. We've made it up. It's called an Edisonian. There you go. As far as I'm concerned, they have come up with an idea, put a name to it, and are telling you all to do what they say when referring to it. And I don't care what they say. Daedalus is, we were way, way, way back, and he's right there. So to say, don't look at this, right, because I'm saying this is what it is a wrong way to approach anything. And it's a very particularly good example. There is the Edisonian hero. Oh, it's not it has to be an American, if you see what I mean. Sorry, my voice, I'm not getting it. But they make the definition of an Edison, it has to be an American. So screw Daedalus. And therefore, anything that fits this pattern, this particular, it's a system. We call it the Edisonian because it's American. Ancient Greeks can't do that. Ancient Greeks can't light out for new territory, and their own argument here is absolutely absurd and falls down on itself, if you see what I mean. Sorry, I've gone off on one there. I hope you don't mind. Excuse me, folks. Let me just catch up with you. Goodness, I've really got a bit of catching up to do, folks. I'll run down here. Let's see what we can do. So, no sense in doing more fantasy than science. Doc, my condolences. It was the exact situation I was in when I dropped out of high school. Thank you, Brad. Just life, sir. It was a hard one, by the way. The word "die hard" has no meaning for me anymore. If I watch Die Hard now, I just think of everything in it as just a load of hoo-ha. No, that's nothing. I laughed out loud when I saw them announce Sands of Dune recently. Even though the concept of a collection of side stories sounds interesting, it's just like what to put in the really Sands of Dune. Yeah, that's a collection of egg holders of Dune. I don't know. Ether Prime, in today's day and age, I find hard science fiction is honestly boring. It's a lot of science fiction writers are trying to produce an idea, or just that they feel they just want to write in a setting, and it's better to concentrate, develop your characters, develop your prose, write a good story, and flesh it out. Laser beams and nuclear bombs don't really make for pretty prose, I suppose. I like science fiction that makes you think. To me, that's really just that gets the brain going. That's a big selling point for me, folks. But let's see, from a reader for science fiction fantasy, because at least there are no expectations from a reader for the author to bore me to death. Why? With details about how etching works, etc. So why it might work. Yeah, the devil in the detail. See, I'd say the distinction between the big four: Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, Arthur C. Clarke, and Frank Herbert. You can split them quite easily into two. There's Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov, and their ideas, guys, but their writing's not great. Herbert and Heinlein are much better writers. As we talk about this, the purple prose, the floweriness. They really do attempt to paint pictures with their words and educate you, not educate us, but give you a full sense of their There's stories, and they don't ram stuff down your throat. And I'm not saying that Clark and Asimov do always, but there's a fair bit of that, kind of QED type thing, I think, from them. But they're not, their characters are never great, if you see what I mean. It's a lot of short story science fiction is just about an idea. And I think when people find books interesting, it's because it's the characters as well as the ideas, I think. And often science fiction one suffers because of the other. But there you go. But no, I love science fiction that surprises me. It's why I don't know people say, "Oh, don't talk about Philip K. Dick." Why not? I love talking about Philip K. Dick because every single thing he's ever written has just totally taken me by surprise. Just whoa! I didn't. That's the thing. Philip K. Dick. You could just put on the back of every one of his books. Wow! I didn't see that coming. It's that's the seller. Really. It just didn't see that coming at all. And especially when you've read a lot of Philip K. Dick, you think, I'm pretty certain I know what's coming here. No, you don't. You haven't a clue. And that's what's great about him, I think. There's a lot of writers like that. What's interstellar travel is going to take 100 plus years, even with cryogenics like air being suckered out of the room. No grand space operas, phooey. Well. So just to clarify, I don't prefer one or the other. I just use it that way. Yep, no worries. Comment on that. Just since you brought up, thought it was point. Sci fantasy is fantastic. Yeah, books are books. Genres are genres. Martian. I've seen the film. I haven't read the book. I've got a copy of the book there, Ether Prime, but I haven't read it yet. All funds under speculative fiction. That was very much a big part of that drive in the 70s and so on. A lot of them didn't like the term science fiction. Science meaning what you know, speculate as opposed to guess about what you don't. If only I could hard it. Hard science fiction. My childhood spent watching sci-fi cartoons would have been dead. Yeah, absolutely. No Ulysses 31, no Battle of the Planets, all that stuff. Great. We just talked about the Battle Beyond the Stars. What a cheesy film. Mega cheese. Brilliant. Love it. Simple. I loved it as a kid. I think kids would still love it today. It's kind of sad as well. And it's got a giant spaceship with breasts. It's quite incredible, actually. Was it Nell? Nell's a great ship. Let's have a wee look. Hard magic systems establish strict rules and not able to break them. Soft magic systems. Oh, we're on to magic. Hookity, hocus pocus. Based on the concepts of hard and soft magic games. Systems. Let's have a wee look. I'm just catching up. Still remember learning about Hegelian dialectics from Caesar and Fallout New Vegas. Dialectic arguments, one of your two arguments in the classical world, Grimdark. So you use the persuasive argument when you're dealing with human emotion, but when you want to get to the truth of the matter, I suppose, to construct a thing, then use the dialectic. So there's, positive, negative, put the two together. But a lot of people just give absolutes. You have to vote yes or no. You have to be Republican or Democrat. You have to be conservative or Labour. You have to be Catholic or Protestant. There are always other options. No matter what, I think if you're given two options, you're always having one left out. Excuse me. Thankfully, I didn't before that, but I didn't appreciate it when you mentioned it. Let's see, catch up. I don't see the Baron as smart. He didn't suss out the relationship between the Sardaukar. No worries about spelling, folks. And the planet they came from, closer to pure rat cunning. He's close, though, isn't he? And Leto the First was close to figuring it out too, but hadn't quite got it. Yeah, it's a well-kept secret, I think. But everybody's flawed in the Dune universe. I think they're all presented as even for how it's presented as almost like the ultimate mentat, But if his data is rubbish, he's rubbish. The Baron was the kind of man who thinks he's the smartest man in every room. Those types rarely are. I'm one of them, Ether. Sorry. But do you know why I'm the smartest person in this room, Ether? Because I'm in it on my own. Just teasing. Unfortunately, I am around here. Often that sort of thing. It's just my nature. But yeah, people who I can tell you that people who behave like that. Well, it's not that I behave that way. It's not whether you think you're the smartest man in the room. It's either you are or you aren't, I suppose. So yeah, there are always rooms full of people who think they're the smartest person in that room, and then there's one person who is. And trust me, well, in my case, it usually is me, and I'm a very flawed individual, but yeah, people hate it. It's just one of those things, I suppose. But people, yeah, particularly over here, I think people are very strange. But there we go. Yeah, it's good to be the smartest person in the room if you're the only person in the room. Oh, yeah, no dogs here either. But there we go. Listen, folks, it's just cutting after midnight there, and I'll tell you what, we're going to go on with this young thing tomorrow and so on. But I hope you don't mind. I'm going to call it a wee bit of a night early tonight, because we've got plenty more to talk to you about tomorrow with the hero, and we're going to look at all of the Jungian, particularly the relationship with the Jungian archetypes tomorrow, and I think you'll find this pretty interesting actually. It's just that I think I'm going to need to save my throat a wee bit for tomorrow, because we've got to keep doing these up until the 21st. 7 a.m. again. Good night. We'll just go at midnight here. So thank you very much, folks. I'm sorry, I kind of actually want to continue on a wee bit, but I can feel my throat shredding here. So it's time to get out the honey and etc. And I'll say good night, and hopefully we'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, look after yourselves, folks, wherever you are, and have a good one. Take care now. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye bye.